Today, Valorant is one of the best esports out there going, but it's not always that way. When it first started up, it was a promising esport with a lot of eyes and attention going into it back in April 7th when the beta first launched. Players from other esports jumped into the opportunity, tried to get in early. At the start, most of the broadcasts were ran by either teams or a small broadcast just trying to get eyes on the product. Later, Riot did start handing out money to certain organizers to help them run the event, but they were pretty hands-off. And from that point and grown to where it is today. I'm going to go over where it started, key players and figures in the scene at that time, and then just make it as entertaining as possible. Back when Valorant first came out, T1 tried to sign a super team right out the bat, just consisted of former CS pros. Big draw was Brax, we know as Swag from CS, who was a part of that cheating scandal back in the day in that CS side. He came over to Valorant and was like the first premier signing for T1, and they wrapped around a core. Another prominent name that was floating around that time was Hiko. He was playing the game at the very start. After a little bit of playing, people getting used to the game, the first major tournament started back in May 3rd of 2020, was a T1 Nerd Street Invitational. Gen.G won their first tournament. They cruised through it. A lot of other prominent CS players that are in that tournament. Shroud, Hiko, Skadoodle, Elige was in it for a little bit, Brax, Crashies, and AZK. Another smaller tournament at that time before the game launched in Valhalla. Pretty much the only thing notable from that side of it was a group called High Ground. Some former PUBG pros trying to make their way into Valorant. On the other side of the pond, as they say, over in Europe in Mandatory.GG Cup number 1. Some teams in there, Fish 123, NIP, and Hip Hip Hip. Three of the most notable teams at the time. Fish 123, basically the core, located in London, go on to win their first tournament. After the release of Valorant in June 2nd of 2020, first major tournament in NA is the Immortals First Light on June 15th, 2020. TSM signed former Mousebaz, basically a team over in beta that consisted of Wardell, Hayes, Sub, Rosa, Drone, and Cutler. They get their first tournament win of the year on that first tournament. At a similar time down in Brazil, the first tournament down there, Copa Raquin, Brazil. Their first tournament in June 5th, 12th. Game Lenders Blue wins that. Most notable player on that team is MW0. Next notable tournament is in NA, T1X Nerd Street Gamer Showdown on June 20th in 2020. At this time, 100 Thieves signed High Ground. Aside from Vegas, they pick up Hiko instead and then create that team. It was a qual system for the tournament, unless you were invited, so there were some free agent teams in there. And this time, Ninja was in the Valorant scene. He did participate. Team wasn't the greatest, but he still participated and was a part of these tournaments. Sentinels at the time, they had a player by the name of Dizzy. They added Sick instead, and that finishes up their core. Another team at that time was a name by Together We Are Terrific. At that time, they had FNS, Mame, and Caboose. And then in the T1 roster, they add Victor, and then Elige goes back to CS. At that time, Victor's name was under Food, and he later changes that to Victor. TSM do win this tournament at T1 Nerd Street for their second total tournament win in this era. So we move on to the next one. It's going to be over in across the pond in Europe. Wave Esports Invitational on June 22nd. Fabrican versus Petty Parrots, which ironically they do end up joining later in the year, and they create FPX, but not at this time yet. Also at the similar era, we have a team in the far east over in Korea by Vinstrikers. They are just winning. That's pretty much all. That's the short story. They're just winning everything that's imaginable. As you can see, they're just win. That's what they do. Back in NA, the Pulse Invitational, July 10th of 2020. It's the first tournament where a lot of the established teams all attend. No T1 or 100 Thieves, unfortunately, in the tournament, but it does have the vast majority of the rest. It's into groups, and it goes to bracket play. It's like the first tournament that has like a set good system to get the best teams to play, not just the 01s. So Gen.G do beat C9 in the finals of this tournament. Basically, Gen.G now have 2 total tournament wins, for including that beta one back at the very start when the other good teams were playing as well. Sentinels come in third, and TSM lose to C9 in that first round to Tens and Friends, as they were declared at that time. Next, we're going to go back to Europe, where G2 wins their first tournament of the year. Vitality European Open on July 4th, where they did poach artists from after those cheating allegations, which were proven to be false, and he was reinstated, consisting of artists, Mixwell, David P, Pith, and Patty Tech. And then in the Far East, continued domination. Then we go back to Europe with the We Play Invitational July 12th. G2 do beat Fish 123. We get the second win of the year. Then we'll fly back over to Brazil. The Gamer Club unite on July 17th, and Gamelanders continue their domination as per usual, with MWZO just frying out of his mind. Next, we'll head over to PAX Arena Invitational, July 21st, 2020. Really good tournament with a lot of good teams inside of it. Together We Terrific, as mentioned earlier, does get signed by Envy. Ninja is in the tournament. It does not make it past groups, unfortunately. And this, TSM and Sentinels have their first of many bouts, the start of their rivalry in this tournament. Sentinels do win out on this side of it. And then Sentinels do beat C9 3-1 in the finals to get their first win of the year. And in the start of August, we got a new tournament of 30 Bomb GG. Some good teams in it. We got Sentinels, TSM, Gen G, Immortals as the major hitters, with a few more sprinkled in there. The next step in the TSM Sentinels rivalry, Sentinels beat TSM back-to-back times in the upper finals and the grand finals. This brings Sentinels to their second overall win. Going to the next tournament, Sentinels are now favored head-to-head against TSM. Next tournament, we're going to stay in NA, FaZe Clan Invitational, August 6th, 2020. TSM beat Sentinels twice in this tournament, once 2-0 and then 3-2 in the finals, and it becomes an iconic series of that era. Probably most memorable, and they get their third total tournament win of the year. Here's a listen in to how that sounded at that time.
Hayes just doing Hayes things yet again, stepping up at the right time. This man is an absolute beast.
Oh no! Oh no! The orbital strike forces them back. Okay, so now more delay, but they'll be back in here. They can heal. They will be fine, but it's a 2v3. Now it's going to be a 1v1. It's just up to Sick. He has been spectacular, but it's not going to matter.
We're going to stay in NA again for a third straight tournament, Knights Invitational Gauntlet Series, August 16th, 2020. Main bracket play is BO1 until finals. There's no Sentinels in this. TSM does beat Gen G 2-1 to get their fourth total. Then we're going to fly back over to Europe for Mandatory.GG Cup number 2. And G2, as per usual, is dominant towards their way to a third win. Let's take a look to the east, see how things are going. We're going to go back to Europe for the Allied Esports Odyssey, August 8th. Fabrican and Party Pirates combine to form FPX. Fish 123 are signed by Liquid, and then G2, per usual, just goes to their first tournament win. Then we'll go back to NA for another Pop Flash Invitational, August 26th. This is the first high-level broadcast that has all the commentators, halftime analysts, those kind of things, pretty much showing the potential to the esport. Still a lot of fixing up to do on that side of it, but it was the best form of product that we've gotten so far. Sentinels 3-0 Envy in the finals to get their second total. TSM does get upset by Dignitas at that time. Major upset, and they did not make it past groups in that tournament. Fly back to Europe once again for the Level 2 Clash, August 28th. G2 beat FPX on their way to their fifth tournament. Starting to get a little bit closer for G2, but they're still pretty handily winning in their tournaments over in Europe. Next tournament is the Blast Invitational back in Europe. It is the awaited match of the finals. The two best teams at that time in Europe, G2 and FPX, go to the finals for 5 maps. G2 does pull it out. However, they did get a 1-map advantage at the start. Basically, the series started 1-0, and then they win in that map 5 to get their 6th win in the era. Now, back in Brazil, Gamelanders still dominant, but starting to get closer and tighter. Their third total win in that era. Then they go to a next tournament in September 17th, pretty much right after that. They do lose pretty convincingly, but they were playing a lot of matches back to back to back. And then in their final tournament, they do play Evolution Open, and they do bounce back and win that tournament. And then in the final tournament of that year for Brazil, and Copa ranking number 2, October 4th, just before the era of open tournaments ends, Gamelanders does win their final tournament before First Strike, bringing them to 5 total wins in the open circuit era. All right, the Far East once again. What did I expect? Nothing new, nothing new. This does conclude the end of the non-sanctioned Ryan's events. From the time Vintage Strikers was created, they never dropped a match. That being said, just how many tournaments did they win? As you can see, Vintage Strikers pretty much dominated this early portion of Valorant. Just gotta put it out there. Competition that they're facing over there a little bit weaker than the rest of the regions. That being said, winning that many matches in a row is still unbelievable. Their win streak in total gets up to 54. Up until this point, however, their win streak is at 43. After the kickoff of the Ignition series, which is the term used for this era of Valorant being the open circuit era, Valorant then announces their next project where they're going to further try to expand the Valorant gaming scene.
I want to say their current win rate on this is somewhere in the 40s currently. Some kills are starting to come through though. Zombs gets 2, Zombs gets 3, Zombs with 4, Zombs with the ace!
Sparking incredible rivalries and nail-biter overtimes, fueling Valorant to become today's fastest growing esport. As a result, today we are announcing our next step for Valorant esports and the first tournament organized by Riot Games. First Strike.
That'll wrap up this video, but you know what to expect the next one. First Strike being the first event ran by Riot directly, and it's the first of many memorable moments going forward. Production value, consistency of tournament structure, although a little shaky at first, the start of great things to come. If you made it this far, appreciate you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, there are a lot of other videos you should check out. That'll do it for me. Have yourself a nice day.